Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're plunging into that really high-stakes world where words from leaders can, well, trigger immediate military responses, often completely out of public view. And this deep dive is based on a whole collection of recent reports, statements, things you've shared with us. The core issue, President Trump's recent order, moving nuclear submarines. And this was apparently spurred directly by comments from Russia's former president, Dmitry Medvedev, comments Trump called highly provocative.
Exactly. And our mission today really is to unpack the specifics from these sources. We want to, connect the dots between these public statements and the military response that followed, which was pretty quiet but significant.
Yeah.
It's about understanding what this specific exchange tells us about international relations at this level. Not just the headlines, but what it actually means for the global stage and, frankly, for you watching it unfold.
Okay, so let's get right into it. The spark, as you said, seems to be these comments from Dmitry Medvedev. He's not just a former president anymore, is he?
No, that's right. He's now the deputy chairman of Russia's Security Council, so still a very significant figure.
And what did he actually say that got such a strong reaction?
Well, our sources point to a few things. First, he accused Trump pretty bluntly of playing the ultimatum game with Russia.
Okay.
And this wasn't, behind closed doors. He posted it on X, the platform formerly known as Twitter. He wrote that each new ultimatum is a threat and a step towards war. Pretty strong words.
Wow. Yeah, that's very direct for a public platform like X. Was this a totally new kind of rhetoric from him?
Not entirely new, no. He had previously called Trump's ultimatums theatrical. He even said Russia didn't care.
Dismissive.
Right, but then came something, well, more chilling, a warning he posted on Telegram mentioning a dead hand threat.
Dead hand. What does that mean in this context?
Well, for military analysts, that term is pretty specific. It's understood as a direct reference to Russia's retaliatory nuclear strike system, perimeter, sometimes called dead hand.
Ah, the system that could launch automatically.
Potentially, yes. Or ensure retaliation even if leadership is decapitated. It's a stark reminder of the nuclear reality underlying everything. A very serious signal to send.
So these weren't just words then. He was invoking some pretty heavy strategic capabilities.
Yeah.
What was this ultimatum game Trump was supposedly playing that Medvedev was reacting to?
So according to the sources we have, Medvedev's comments were a direct response to President Trump giving Moscow these repeated ultimatums, basically demanding that President Putin agree to a ceasefire in Ukraine or face, tough new sanctions.
And were there specific deadlines mentioned?
Yes, several. The sources highlight a few. The latest deadline was for Putin to end the war by August 8th. Before that, there was apparently a 10 or 12-day deadline mentioned.
Right.
And even earlier, back in July, a threat of severe tariffs on Russian oil and exports if the war wasn't over in 50 days.
So a pattern of ultimatums from Trump's side.
Exactly, and it's probably important context for you listening that Medvedev has been a consistent, very vocal supporter of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, and he's often sharply critical of the West. This fits that pattern.
Okay, so you have Medvedev's highly charged words referencing nuclear systems, and Trump's response was pretty immediate. Yes, very swift, very concrete. He ordered the deployment of 2 nuclear submarines. He actually said publicly that he ordered them to be positioned in the appropriate regions.
Appropriate regions, always vague, isn't it?
Always vague, yes. And his stated reason, he said he was acting just in case these foolish and inflammatory statements are more than just that. He also added something quite pointed. Words are very important and can often lead to unintended consequences. I hope this will not be one of those instances.
That's quite a statement itself.
It is. And the sources do note, as you hinted, Trump gave no specifics on where these subs were going. That's standard U.S. military protocol, of course. But there's also this ambiguity. Were they nuclear-powered attack subs or nuclear-armed ballistic missile subs? The sources say it wasn't specified. Why does that difference matter so much?
Well, that ambiguity is probably part of the message, right? Nuclear-powered submarines, SSNs, are, powerful conventional assets, but nuclear-armed submarines, SSBNs, they carry the ultimate strategic deterrent. So not clarifying which type, that leaves the other side guessing. It ramps up the perceived seriousness.
I see.
And if you connect this to what Trump told reporters later, it reinforces that. He said, a threat was made and we didn't think it was appropriate, so I have to be very careful.
Right. He framed it as caution.
Exactly. And justified it saying, I do that on the basis of safety for our people. A threat was made by a former president of Russia, and we're going to protect our people. And you have to remember, both the US and Russia, they hold the vast majority of the world's nuclear weapons, and both rely heavily on their submarine fleets. So, moving these assets, even just two, in response to words, it's significant.
And this wasn't happening in a vacuum either. Our sources mentioned this specific incident came after a pattern of personal attacks against each other on social media between Trump and Medvedev.
Yeah, it seems like there's been some back and forth for a while.
Apparently so. The sources mentioned Trump had previously called Medvedev the failed former president of Russia who thinks he's still president. Pretty sharp language.
Wow, okay.
And he also warned Medvedev directly to watch his words because he's entering very dangerous territory.
So it's personal, it's public, and involves figures connected to nuclear powers. That's quite a mix.
It really is. Two very prominent figures, former heads of state no less, duking it out on social media. And it culminates in, actual military hardware being moved. So what was the immediate fallout from Trump ordering the subs moved?
Well, it's interesting. The Kremlin itself, publicly silent, according to our sources, no official comment on this submarine deployment.
Interesting.
But the markets reacted. Moscow's stock market reportedly took a sharp fall right after Trump made his statements about the submarines.
So silence from the government, but noise in the economy.
Exactly. Which really brings up a crucial point for you, the listener. What does it mean when these incredibly high-stakes exchanges, potentially involving nuclear signaling, happen more and more on social media? Instead of, through guarded diplomatic cables.
Yeah, it feels different. Faster, maybe more volatile.
It certainly seems that way. And it highlights why it's important to understand how public statements, even from someone like Medvedev, who isn't the current head of state, but holds a key security role, are being interpreted and acted upon almost instantly by other world leaders. You see a tweet or a Telegram post, and suddenly submarines might be moving and markets are dropping.
This whole deep dive just really throws into sharp relief that incredibly delicate balance, doesn't it, between power, communication, military readiness. It's all intertwined. It just underscores how fast words can escalate into real, tangible, high-stakes actions, almost in real time now. What seems unique here is that feedback loop, the social media rhetoric, the immediate military posturing. It blurs the line between, say, formal diplomatic signaling and maybe just personal spats.
Absolutely. And that leads to maybe the final thought for you to consider, building on all this. Given everything we know about nuclear history, the Cold War standoffs, and now layer on top the sheer speed of digital communication, what does this specific incident, these public threats met with silent military moves, suggest about the future, about global stability, and about the kind of leadership needed to manage these potential crises that flare up so quickly? What's the next unintended consequence that everyone is trying so hard to avoid? Or maybe, in some cases, even provoke? Something to think about.